Hello Year 3 and welcome to the third and final topic lesson of week 4 summer term 1, and this lesson is once again on geography, and we are looking at the physical geography of London and Atlanta and comparing the two. So as you can see, there are similarities. We're looking at the similarities and differences between the physical features of London and Atlanta. So first thing to say is, what are physical features? What are geographical physical features? Can you make a list of them? So I want you to pause this video, make a list, and we'll compare the list. So stop the video now and make a list of what you think physical geographical features are. Stop the video now. Right, welcome back. This is my list, and I'd like you to compare it with your list. How many of these did you get? How many are on your list? Do you have anything different on your list that I haven't included on mine? It'd be interesting to see if you wrote that down and added it to Tapestry so I can actually see what your lists are like. But these are physical geographical features and things that we can compare when we're looking at comparing two places. Now, first thing we need to think about is biomes. Each area is its own biome. A biome is an area of the planet that has similar climate, landscapes, animals, plants, etc. And what makes a biome is it having the same temperatures, how dry or wet it is, the fertility of the soil. So, for example, a biome will have a very specific temperature, average temperatures, will have very specific average rainfalls for how wet or dry it is, and that will impact the fertility of the soil, also the underlying rock. And those three factors will decide what kind of plants and animals are going to thrive in that environment. Obviously, the types of plants that are best suited to that, and therefore the animals that are best suited to eating those plants, and that will create a biome. So what I want you to do is watch this short video on biomes. This is from BBC Bite Sizes, and there's other activities and things you can look at whilst you're on it, because we're going to be comparing the biomes around Atlanta and around London. So pause the video, write down this web link, and then you can watch the video. So moving on. Now we're going to look at some of the geographical data to compare and contrast the physical geography in and around London and Atlanta. Now, I like to think you will all know what data is, seeing as we did spend some time in maths looking at data when we were doing graphs and when we were doing bar charts and pictograms. So you should all know what data is. So think about what data is and see if you can tell someone in your family what data actually is, because we're now going to be looking at some data around the physical geography of London and Atlanta. So firstly, you're going to need to identify where London is and where Atlanta is. Now, hopefully you've done that in the last lesson. You can see that London is in England, it's in the southern part of England, and Atlanta is in one of the southern states of the United States, just above that little sticking out bit, if you can see it. Now, obviously, Atlanta is going to be much nearer the equator, and that is going to impact on its biome. So it's going to have a slightly different one than London. Now, what I want you to do is get yourself a pen and paper, or pencil and paper, and draw yourself a grid, something like this one. Pause it so you can read each item, and then we're going to look at some data, some information, geographical maps and things, and see if we can work out, see if you can work out the answers to the various bits you can fill in this chart. So we're going to be looking at average temperatures in London and Atlanta, rainfall, hours of sunshine, height above sea level, and some of the similarities and differences that we can do. Now, hopefully you will have been emailed some of these graphs if you can't see them very well on the screen. If not, you can always, if you've got an atlas, see if you can find some information in an atlas. Similarly, the graphs are all on screen, but it may be that you can find some of these pictures on the internet and you can get a better idea, because you need to look very carefully to work out the information that you're going to put in each of these boxes. So, topography, that is the height, the kind of height of the land. Now, if you look at this, you need to work out where London is. And if you look at the topography in London, London is in that kind of green area. So looking at that, how far away from the sea do you think it is? But you have to look very carefully at the key, because the keys are actually slightly different. Now, maybe if you can identify where Atlanta is, and I can see Atlanta, how close are they to the mountains? How close is London to the mountains? How close is Atlanta to the mountains? And is that going to actually impact on their biome? How far are they away from the sea? Is that going to impact on their biomes? Interesting. Let's have a look. So here we go. Here's two maps. And it's interesting to note that both Atlanta and London are located on rivers. Why do you think that is? Why would you build a city or a town, or why would a town or city thrive next to a river? What's the point of having a river? What does that tell us about the two centres? Now, looking at this picture, this is a map of Atlanta, and it's about height above sea level. So look very carefully at the key, and you can work out that Atlanta is kind of in the yellow or orangey bit. So looking at the key, you'll be able to work out how high above sea level Atlanta is. And similarly, if you look at the same information for London, now you have to be very careful because the keys are slightly different. How high above sea level is London? Now that's going to be in this blue bit, so it's going to be fairly low down there, and you can fill those in on your graph. What do you think in your table? So what do you think that's going to have in terms of impacting on the climate in London and Atlanta? Speaking of climate, these next maps show the average annual temperatures, how warm or cold it is on average over the year. Now, if you can see London in the one map there, London is kind of pinky red, so you need to look very carefully at the key and work out what the average temperatures in London are. And if you look at the map of America, you'll see that in Atlanta, that's going to be probably in that little orange section, isn't it? So what does you think that means to temperatures? Which one has the highest annual temperatures? Which one is hotter and which one is cooler? Now, what about rainfall? How much does it rain? How much water do we get? Now, if you look at London, that's going to be somewhere in those brown areas. Work out which colour brown it is, and that will tell you in millimetres how much rainfall London gets in an average year. So that's the average rainfall. Now, precipitation is just a posh word for rainfall, but it does include snow. So look at the American map, work out where you think Atlanta is and which of those applies to America. Once again, you can read off the map and put the two values in, and it will tell you which place is wetter, which place has more rain, and which city, maybe they're similar. Have a look and see what you can do. Add them into your table and you can compare them. Here's an interesting one. This is the average number of hours sunshine in a year. So how much sunshine do we get? So they both look quite orange to me. So you'll have to look at the key, because the keys are a bit different. So what do you think? How many hours of sunshine do we get in London? What's the average number of hours a year of sunshine compared to Atlanta? And which one's going to be nicest to live in then? Maybe you like sunshine, maybe you don't like sunshine. That's going to impact on on whether or not you want to live in one city or the other. Now, finally, look at these two pictures. These are satellite images or aerial photographs, one of Atlanta and one of London. Now look carefully at these pictures. What do they really tell you about the two places? What's the difference in colour? Why do you think that is? Why is one a different colour to the other? Remember, if you're looking from above, what would make one such a different colour to the other? What would make one a different size to the other? Interesting. Look at the aerial photographs, study them and tell me what that tells you about London and about Atlanta, and comparing the two. So we've looked at an awful lot of data there, and hopefully you've paused the video and looked at the images and worked out the answers and completed your table. And your table means you can now compare the biome around London and with the biome around Atlanta. Based on all this information, which tells you a lot about the climate, how wet it is, how warm it is, how sunny it is, maybe you need to decide, if you could, just based on the climate and the information you've got, which city would you prefer to live in? Would you prefer to live in London? Or would you prefer to live in Atlanta? Maybe you could write a paragraph and tell me why you would choose one or the other and what the most important factor is to you. So we've looked at a lot of data, we've done a lot of geographical research. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Do go back and watch the video maybe and pause on each slide so you can actually interpret the data on it. And I look forward to seeing you next time, and I look forward to seeing the results of your work on Tapestry. So have fun, see you next week.